everybody. It's Patty Dobrovolsky from Up Your Creative Genius. And today I have such an incredible person. I don't really know where to begin, but it's Mellisa Lallo Johnson, who is the fancy flower farmer. She is a master gardener and she's also a marketing maven. So you got to know about that part too. But I'm so excited to have you here. She's going to talk to us about life in general and how she pivoted and how she's doing what she's doing, so you can learn all about how to make change better. Mellisa, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was great to meet you. And we knew from the moment that we met, there was a reason why. So
yeah, it was fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself so that all my listeners know who you are and why you're here in the world.
So I am a master gardener here in Kansas City, Missouri. I am soon approaching 44 years old.
Woo!
And yes, and I have found a tremendous amount of peace and tranquility and renewal in gardening. And it was brought about through, having to deal with some tragedy and just trying to find out how I could get that sense of peace back in my life and fill, a huge void. And so in doing that, following the signs, a lot of the things we've talked about, just kind of like being open to spirituality and to what the path is for me, praying for a path, and then just walking that path. And it's been crazy, the amount of things that have happened over the last 9 years, and I was actually just posted yesterday. I made a happy Mother's Day post to my mother, Angel. And I said in the post that, she always guided me in life through everything, every decision, everything. She was my phone call away for every piece of advice. And especially as I got older. And, it was really wild because she hasn't been here in 9 years. And over the last 9 years, I feel like she's guiding me even more than she had when she was alive. On Earth.
I totally get this. I mean, my mother transitioned out of the world in 2004. But I mean, honestly, I was bereft when it happened. I was like, she was my biggest cheerleader, and I had to learn how to become a cheerleader for myself. And that really, I mean, that's a life's work in itself, right? I think it was 2008, sorry, but it was really a powerful experience because every time I needed help, I wanted to know about something. And my mom was a big gardener too. I know yours was. And I just think, building a garden is a way to renew. Now tell people, when I met you, so here's how we met. We were working at Make 48. I was illustrating the final pitches, and you were there taking photos and doing a myriad of things, right, to support your friend. And my phone dings, my flight's canceled, and I'm like, oh no. And you say, what's the matter? And I say, my flight's canceled, but great, I got a new one. Are there any hotels out by the airport? I'll just spend the night there and fly out the next day. And so of course you say Marriott, I get a hotel, and then you offered to give me a ride to the hotel. Now, I'm used to traveling by myself. So normally I would say to somebody, no, I'll just take an Uber. And I might have even said that to you, but you were, really, I thought, well, that's nice. I think I'll get a ride. And then you pull up in this BMW SUV and I'm like, yeah, that's a good Uber right there. But then you told me your story. And I have to say the thing, I loved getting, to know you, but the thing that stood out in my head, you said, I had a traumatic experience. And then you went on to tell about how you'd garden to get through it and blah, 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 all that change. But what stood out for me in gold letters was traumatic incident. Ask her about the traumatic incident was the nudge I got inwardly. And so I did. So tell our listeners about what happened to you, what you had to deal with.
Sure. So in 2013, in August, every time, my parents had come to visit. I had a 19-month-old little boy, and I was pregnant with my second baby. I was 7 weeks out from giving birth, and my parents had come out to visit. And my dad had just purchased a new airplane. So he was an avid pilot, loved flying since the time he was a little boy. And he kind of upgraded his plane because he said, this plane will get me to you in 4 hours instead of, 6 to 7 hours. And they were adamant that they were going to be out here every few weeks to see their grandkids. They were very, very devoted parents and grandparents. And when they left after that weekend, their plane crashed at Charles Wheeler Airport. And it was just the craziest thing because my sister was like nuts about keeping track of them. She was always worried something was going to happen to them her whole life, ever since she was little. She was always worried that they weren't going to pick us up from dance class because something happened.
Yeah.
And so that day, I dropped them off at the airport. We said our goodbyes. In fact, I said to them, I'm not going to cry because you're going to be back in a few weeks because you're coming.
Yeah.
My mom is going to be here for a month helping me with the baby and, all the things. And I dropped them off and I had to stop at Home Depot. So I came home, my little one was napping and we got him up and we went out to Home Depot. And the whole time we're at Home Depot, my sister's texting me and she's like, the Wi-Fi is not working. Mom's not answering. Mom's not texting back. What's going on? And I said, I'm sure it's fine. It's, Wi-Fi. This was back, a hot minute ago.
Right,
So things aren't as reliable. And sometimes it would cut out. And I said, her name's Erica. I said, I'm sure it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. So we leave. And it was funny because my son was doing cute little things. Like we brought him over by the fans and he was, so I took videos. I sent it to mom, no response. So we get home. And as soon as we got home, it was really strange because I really am kind of news averse. I really don't like watching the news. I feel like because I'm such an empath, it brings just a tremendous amount of stress to me. And so I don't really watch the news. And I remembered standing in my kitchen and feeling like I had to turn on the news. And it was 5 o'clock. And I went over and I turned on the news. And the very second I turned on the news, there was a picture of my father's airplane in a field. And
wow,
I looked at it and I saw the scrolling thing that said man and woman dead at Charles B. Wheeler Airport, airplane crash. And I said, and it was just crazy because, your defense mechanism hits in. And I said, that's not my parents. There's no way, and I was just almost like kind of like arrogantly confident. Then I'm like, that's terrible, but there's no way that's my parents. And to be honest, my dad had just gotten the plane. So I didn't even know what the plane looked like.
Right.
So I could see was this plane in a field. So I took the picture and I texted it to my siblings. And I said, because I knew my youngest sister was living with them. In fact, she was supposed to be on that trip with them.
Right.
And she couldn't because of work. And so I texted it to my siblings and I said, this plane just crashed in Kansas City. Is this dad's plane? And that just kind of started the entire nightmare into this whole new life,
Yeah.
And I remember waking up the next morning, like I opened my eyes the next morning and I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't have parents. Like I'm an orphan. I have no parents anymore.
Yeah.
And just that profound moment was like crazy because it was kind of like, really the two people that I cared the most about how they felt about me and the people that I really wanted the approval of more than anybody, they were now gone. There was nobody here. And I'm very blessed to have, at the time I had my dad's mother here and she passed exactly 6 months to the day. And then my mother's parents, thank God, are still here. And so, I had them to not only break this news to, but then, subsequently be able to rely on them, through this process. But
wow. I mean, that's so intense of an experience. And you and we talked about how that shifted your world perspective, the things you knew and believed in, that sort of just was a mindset shift for you. And so how did you cope? What did you do to help yourself with the grief?
Well, it was wild because, like I said, I was just very shy of having a second baby. I was very overweight. And we had just moved into our home. It would have been a year and a half, prior. and I had been pregnant the whole time, so I
Yeah.
wasn't really working outside. I really wasn't doing anything. And I remember being in my closet, in the silence of my closet, and just down on my hands and knees and just saying, please
Yeah.
give me a path. I
Yeah.
will walk the path. I will do what you want me to do, but show me a path so I can find some happiness in this world,
Yeah.
because everything I knew that was happiness was now gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just crazy, because one little step to the next, this has been a 9-year kind of
Yeah.
process, but it started with going to Lowe's one day, and the fraud prevention manager was there. And he was talking to the cashier and kind of talking to them about how, I guess, someone was coming in and ripping bags of mulch to try and get them for discount and
What?
whatever. And I kind of walked
Yeah.
over and, was kind of cracking jokes with them about that. And I happened to just say to him, I said, listen, I said, I've got this property. I'm trying to do a lot of different things. I said, would you sell me some hydrangea plants if I bought, like 5 or 6 of them? Would you give me a discount? And he was like, absolutely. And it was in
Oh,
July,
great.
so it was like August. It
Yeah.
was really hot, And so he was like, yeah, absolutely, And so it was just wild, because that's when, Lowe's still does it, but they have like these clearance racks, and the clearance
Yes.
rack is like loaded every single day with things that were just looking a little sad. They just need water and some fertilizer and things like that. So I just, over that one summer, and so that would have been in about 2000. I did some small things after that, but this was about 2016. So this was a multiple year process. Like, I had to get through a lot of stuff in the first couple of years that kept me really kind of focused. But then once that kind of moved past, there was nothing to focus my energy on. I was working, of course, and like doing all
Yes.
those things, but I still had all this time that was just eating my brain, And so I just said, what do I do? And it's just crazy, because, I listened to all the books, and I'm huge on like Joe Dispenza and Wayne Dyer and all of their teachings, and Dolores Cannon, and all of their teachings are very much about going back to nature and being in nature and allowing the beauty of nature, the solace of nature, to heal you and transform you. And I'd always been outside my whole life. My mother was a huge gardener. My dad was that, handyman, can do everything. My grandfather had 30 acres and horses and, all the things, and a huge garden. And so I had always been in this environment, but it wasn't until I really needed it and it served me, and so I just found a tremendous amount of peace. And then just being able to work in your yard and then look back and just see this beauty that you've created. And then every year after year, that led me into the Master Gardener program, because I wanted to take a course in how to be better at this. And I couldn't find anything. I was looking at the colleges and things like that. I'm like, I don't know if I can go back to college. Like, I don't know if I can do that, but like, that. And then the sign came to me, the Master Gardener. So again, it's like all of these things have happened throughout the years to help me unleash my creativity, whether it be floral design, the balloons. I mean, what are the odds of me being a balloon artist? I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, whoever would have thought that?
Right.
But it's like, it's been one sign to the next, to the next. And I know that that is coming from people who know what I need to be able to bring me peace.
Yeah, that's interesting. People who know what you need to bring you peace, right? And I think this is really the secret, in a way, to pivoting to anything, is that you have to listen. You have to learn to listen. And sometimes it takes a traumatic event for us to begin to listen at a deeper level to what life is serving up for us, and how do we get there? I mean, I think, I was a landscaper, so this is what I did in Oakland to put myself through graduate school. I just would put in these gardens in people's homes, and they'd be like, oh my God, that's fantastic. And I would draw the picture of what it would look like, and then I'd hire people to help, right? But part of what that was, and part of the reason I did it, was because I got such a bad review about my performance that I knew that was all I knew how to do, was to pull weeds, because that's what my mom had me do. So if I wasn't going to be an actor, then I better figure something else out. And I just remember weeping in Brenda Way's garden, just weeping, because I got that bad review, and who was I, and how was I ever going to make it? But that garden became just beautiful over time, and the compost and all the things I learned and didn't learn, like the time I pruned the lemon tree. Like, no, you don't prune a lemon tree, but I didn't know that. So once I pruned it, just a little bit of it, I realized that was wrong. So, I did everything to try to get it back. I called and I put wired a crystal to the branch. I did everything to try to get it to come back. It was hilarious. But this is one of the most beautiful things about the world is the physical world is filled with nature, and nature is the greatest teacher.
Sure. And people, a lot of times too, it's like you think that buying something or moving or doing things like that are going to be the things that bring you happiness. And it's really just so simple. And it's here for everyone. I always say too, when people are like, oh, well, I don't have a big yard, or I don't have this or that, even if you have a balcony, you can still garden in your balcony. You can find a park and go hiking and look and just observing, just observing and being in nature is just so restorative to your physical and mental health.
Yeah. So I know that it's been 9 years because I saw it in your post, and I was thinking that even though it was 9 years ago, you said that you felt like, you were talking about your mom angel, right? And so you felt like that she was still around. So say a little bit more about how you know that. How does it feel when you feel that support? How do you know that that's your mom? Have you had any experiences with her?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. It's just wild because when she was here and I started doing some of the gardening, she would always say, Mellisa, you've got to put more color in your garden, and I was like, no, mom. I'm like, but I think I really want to do like a green and white kind of thing. And like, she was like, no, you need more color. You need more color. And it's just so funny.
So this is when she was there in person.
Yes. When she was here in person, she was like, a lot of the garden that was here, which was not much, by the way, most of the pictures that you see on my Instagram page and Facebook, most 90% has been planted, in the past few years. But a lot of what was here was just evergreen. There were just a lot of evergreens and like some small things here and there. And so when I was talking to her about the hydrangea and, kind of moving into that route, and I was like, I just want to do white and this and that. She's like, no, you need more color. You need more color. Well, her favorite color was purple. And so it's just funny to me that through all these years, all these different opportunities, becoming a master gardener was amazing because I've met so many friends that we just were crazy about plants. We just trade plants, trade cuttings, trade all the things together. I started doing a little bit of a program every year where I would buy a bunch of starts to things and then I sell them out to everybody. And so it just happened to be that a lot of these things are purple. So when I look around my yard now, right now I must have 10 different things blooming right now. They're all purple, and so it's just wild that I see these little things, or even something as simple as the mulch. And what I had said yesterday, my mom knows that I'm very OCD. I'm real crazy, about everything being just so. I feel like it's not good enough to take a picture unless it's perfect. I won't put things up on, all the things. And so I know she would have been like, knock it off, get out there and get your mulch done and quit crying about it and just get it done. You know what I mean? Because knowing that just getting it done would make me so happy. And so it's just funny because that mulch pile has been sitting there for almost a month. And I've been so busy, with work or the boys and their sports after school. I was just like, I'm never home to be able to do it. And it's like, I knew that I had Saturday and Sunday this week. And I worked from the morning until the night, both of those days, with a tremendous amount of energy and focus to get this done. And I know that that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I did it alone. I didn't have anybody helping me. I knocked out half of that pile by myself. And I feel great today, so just little things, or even things like where to plant things, like it's just crazy. Or even flowers. I think the biggest part of when I hear her and I feel her with me, she loved doing flower arrangements. She did flower arrangements. She did wedding cakes. She did, everything. And when I put these arrangements together, I just did one this weekend. I did a 16-foot long grazing table.
Oh, wow.
I did flower arrangements, the sprays for the backdrop of this graduation party. In fact, I'm posting that today at 7:00. But when I'm doing these things, I don't know where it comes from. I put these arrangements together, and even I look back and I'm like, this is amazing. How did I do this? I don't know. God guides my hands.
Right. And I think that this is what, your creative genius just flows right through. And that to me, that's really how the universe works. It's this energy field that we're in touch with, that we call God, or we call whatever it is that you call, is that is here with you and available and accessible. You know, one time a friend of mine, Patricia, wanted to build a 7-stage labyrinth in the mountains, right? North where she lived in Georgia. She lived in Mountain City. So this was in the Appalachian Mountains. And so she said, they've got a big field. It's a horse pasture. Will you come and do this? Guide us through how to do it. I said, sure. So there's 7 of us to do this. And we're talking about a 100-foot wide 7-stage labyrinth, right? And, you know, to do that, there's a whole stack of stone. You have to dig line, right? Sort of like what I did when I worked for the Forest Service. You know, you dig a line. If you were a fire crew, you dug line to get the brush out of the way so that the fire couldn't keep going. So, but what I did was I never stopped. I dug that whole line and someone set the rock. And I felt, and every so often they'd hand me a water bottle. I'd take a sip. I'd keep digging, dug the whole thing, never stopped. And where did that come from? I thought at the end of it, where did it come from? And I think this is, you know, when you are doing something with attention and focus, you will be able to do it for endless hours. You can, because you tap into this bigger part of you and this energy, that field that's out there and accessible to you at every moment. And so, and when I met you, I thought, oh my God, she's one of those people that can get a million things done. Yes, because you were taking pictures at, you know, Make 48. You were doing all these things to help out. So I love that. And, you know, if you want to see some pictures of what she's up to, you got to follow her on Instagram, because as soon as I did, I was like, oh my, I got to go through every single picture here. Fancy Flower Farmer is her Instagram, but also you have a podcast too. So when did you decide to start a podcast? Because the first podcast episode that you have is with a gardener from Adelaide. Right? Australia. And that guy, I needed to hear his podcast because I'm in Texas where everything dies. Sure. And so it was so helpful for him to say, yeah, and you know, the degrees get up to about 120 in the summer. And I'm like, oh, that's us. I better figure it, you know. So it was really fantastic to be able to get hooked up with him. But tell me, you know, what really is the thing that you're loving doing now, and how'd you get your podcast started?
Well, and it's really funny that we talk about this because I have to mention, part of that conversation on that day when I was asking for guidance is I said, I don't feel like I have any creativity. I had never been one to paint. I could never draw. I'm a great marketer. I can come up with awesome ideas for events and this and that. But I felt like I had no creativity. And I was like, and my mom was super creative. My mom made everything, no matter what it was.
Mine too. Curtains, furniture, whatever you needed.
Absolutely. No matter what it was. And I always admired that about her. And so, you know, I was praying for the creativity, and then just to see where, and even sometimes I'll post things and my sister will call me up and she'll be like, who are you? Because this is not like back in high school and college, zero. So that's why I always try to tell people too, because some people are like, well, how do you do this? And I could never do that. I could never have a garden like that. I could never do a balloon art. Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's just in wanting to do it, looking for the signs to be able to do it. And even as something as this podcast, you know, I've always wanted to have a podcast. I've always wanted to be able to talk, you know, and kind of just talk to people and know them. And, you know, the signs again, you know, I started my Instagram page because I wanted a way for, you know, I just had a friend that passed away from ovarian cancer. She had boys similarly aged to mine. And I said, geez, this happened so quickly. Yes. Like if something ever happened to me, my kids would have no idea who I was.
Who you were.
Because I was so overwhelmed. I wouldn't take pictures. I didn't take videos. I had nothing. I said, so my kids would there'd be nothing left for them to know who I was. So I started this Instagram page and I said, you know what, that's right when I was getting my master gardeners and going through all that. And I said, you know what, and it was super painful for me to go on Facebook and things like that, because everybody's posting pictures with their parents and their grandparents and the kids with the grandparents
their family, and it's all happy family too. Yeah.
my soul out every time I would go on Facebook. So I said,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm not doing Facebook anymore. I'm going to
Yeah.
start this new Instagram page. It was the first time I'd ever been on Instagram.
Yes.
On Instagram, I loaded it up with all my flower people over the years. And Kurt Wilkinson was one of them who he just completely changed. You know, here in the United States, I feel like we're so focused on like, if you need something, you go to a garden center, everything has to be just so and uniform and this and that and all the things. And we don't really think about wild planting. We don't think about letting nature, just putting these things together and letting nature just take over. And so when I met Kurt, it was really wild because his page was like nothing. My page was nothing. And we just happened to be two people in the same type of path.
Lane.
He was just developing his own property. And so it's been wonderful to get to know him and to be able to just take the advice from him. Again, another gift that was sent to me on the path that said, hey, I'm going to sync you up with this person. He's going to help give you creative direction. And he did. And so the podcast came along, you know, Petra Tools was launching, you know, kind of really working hard in the United States to get their products out. And they were a very young, small business, family owned. And so they had contacted me years ago. I mean, my goodness, it's probably going on 4 years now, 3 years, 4 years. And they had contacted me and said, hey, you know, we have this sprayer. Would you do an unboxing and whatever? And it started from that. I mean, I did the unboxing and just one thing led to the next. And now they're sponsoring a podcast and I do their reels for the Petramax for the liquid solutions, which has been great because it's helped me really learn a lot about the liquid solutions and doing things a little more organically because as a new gardener, again, I was just kind of like, well, if there's bugs in the garden, I'm just going to kill them. And if there's this and that, I'm going to kill it.
Instead of understanding what they actually do in the ecosystem of it, right? I think many people don't understand the ripple effects of all the things that you do. You try to get, I was just listening to something on, you know, on Healthy Brain, is it called? That's probably not what the podcast is called, but they were talking about the ripple effects of something that you start and you do thinking that it will eradicate something, right? Or take care of it. But what it does is it creates a whole host of problems that you have no idea about. Well, that's fantastic.
It was wild. I was just listening actually today to Wayne Dyer, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And he was going through the Tao. And one of the things that he was talking about was how like we are not to control the life force of anything else around us. And he said one day he was playing tennis and he happened to notice a bee that was dying and it was struggling. And so he said that he thought that he should just step on it because he would put the bee out of its misery and this and that. Well, he said he stepped on it. And then the thought went through his mind, like, who am I to take the life force of this little, somewhat insignificant, you know, in the grand scheme of things, a little bee. And he said it was wild because right after that, the whole shift happened. He goes, you know, before that, my game was on. I was hitting, you know, perfect points in tennis. And he goes, and then all of a sudden the wind started coming in. My serves were off by a few inches. And, you know, so I've also become where, like I said, is, you know, it's this whole journey has made me such a much calmer person with nature and with allowing things to just, my main focus right now in my life is to focus on the present moment, not reflect and worry about the past or be sad about the past. And not to be anxious or worry about the future. I am truly trying to like absorb every single given moment. And if I feel negativity coming towards me, or if I feel a feeling that I don't like, I'm observing it. I'm allowing it to pass through me. And I am not allowing that to pierce my vibe and to change that present moment for me. In the present moment, I know everything is just fine. And so it may be the most insignificant thing, but to me, to my OCD or to whatever it is, it may be really coming down on me, but I'm really trying to just focus on the present moment and knowing then in that moment, when I say, wait a second, right now, in this very moment with you, everything is perfect.
It's all good. It's all good.
My
dog
needs
barks.
are met.
We don't care.
Absolutely.
You know, right. Exactly.
All my needs are met. I am healthy. My children are healthy. My husband is healthy. I have a roof over my head. I have a car to drive. I have zero trouble, you know, and so I'm not going to let anything. And I'm really trying to just practice the habit of that to make it, or practice the function of doing that over and over again to make that, you know, my habit to just live in more peace and live in more of just trying to control less, but live in peace. you
Well,
know,
I love that because you know, constantly refer to yourself as OCD. And
very,
so, you know, me, I always say words have power. So if you want that as a label, you can have it. But I would say that too, for me, to be in the present moment is to know that everything, even whatever your brain is racing about and trying to control, we try to control so much, don't you think? In life, we try to control it, but then life shows us how really not in control we are. And
yeah,
so the only thing you can control, which is what you're beautifully talking about, is your attitude about things. And you being an empath, you know, all that stuff can seep into your environment if you let it, but you have to put up some kind of boundary and screen. So as an empath, how do you cope with that, feeling other people's feelings and things like that that you experience in the world? Because I know that a lot of my listeners are empaths. So tell me, what do you do to help yourself navigate all the feelings that are out there, and people and things and plants and
well, I
animals?
mean, they'll absorb you if you let it, you know, and I think, because that's the thing, being an empath and like being so, you know, empathetic to others and to this and that is a beautiful thing, you know, so I
Yes,
don't want to lose that. I want to be that.
absolutely.
And even with OCD, like I have tremendous OCD that I do believe is a grief response, because I never used to care about anything. And now,
Yeah.
you know, in the last 9 years, I have become such a nut job, especially over my yard, because I think I've just put so much into it. And it is such a
Yeah.
reflection of my parents and
Yeah.
my grief that I will
Yeah.
do anything to protect it, you know?
Yeah.
So but it's also a
Fascinating.
blessing and a curse too. You know what I mean? Like the
Fascinating.
OCD.
You said to protect it. I love that. So, in a way, it's an extension of you as well,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
so I think sometimes we feel that way, that we need to protect ourselves and what we've created, and that is part of the belief that we hold about it until we no longer need it, right? Because
Yeah.
at some point you're going to be like, yeah, whatever. When your kids start to mess around in the garden, you'll be like, yeah, go for it. Here's a whole area you can
Sure.
do and control and all of that. But it's so beautiful what you've created that I could see why you'd want to keep it in that shape and to
Yeah.
treat it with respect and love, because that's really what your attention has been, is, you know, healing yourself and loving your parents through that garden, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you know, just even I think with the, you know, empath thing too, it's like I feel like I have to just quickly look at and analyze what it is that I'm feeling, because a lot of times the wanting to help someone or wanting to show someone love, I end up sacrificing myself. And I get
Yeah.
myself into this situation a lot where it's really hard for me to say no. And so
Yeah.
I've really tried to really examine the different things and the different facets of my life and kind of do the checklist thing of the pros and cons of everything and
Yeah.
looking at what takes me the most time. And I think you and I actually talked about this. What things in my life take the most time? What things in my life give me the most benefit? And then
Yes.
cross checking those
Yes.
things to be able to make sure that I'm making, because unfortunately there aren't 100 hours in a day, you know?
Well, and you have two kids and you have a
Sure.
family and you're there and you're an entrepreneur with a highly successful business, right? So you coach other people in how they can do and be in the world, which is amazing that you're able to do all of those things and, you know, take care of yourself in the process. You know, you lost all that weight. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
So
was almost 250 pounds when I delivered my second baby.
yeah,
So it was a huge, you know, process. And even to stay, you know, as I am now, I mean, I'm so grateful that I was able to go through a multi-year process of getting it off, that now I'm more guided about what I do when I
yeah.
eat, and just knowing that food, you know, I'm an Italian. We
Right.
grew up as like, food is
Pasta.
fun,
That's
food
right.
is entertainment, food is life. And so breaking that habit has been really, you know, where like now I look at it as food is energy, food is nutritious. And yes, do
Yes.
I go off the rails a couple of times and, you know, have a cookie cake and this and that and do things? Yeah, absolutely. but the bulk of it
I
is,
want you to put that on your Instagram too, though, because we got to see that. That's the balance of you.
yes. I mean, and that's another thing, even like I would love to, one part of me wants to share a lot more about that story and that journey. But then
Yeah.
the other side of me is like, it's the imperfect part of me. It's not and not saying that I'm perfect now, but it's not, it's not, it's kind of like showing my lawn. My lawn is a disaster right now. And I haven't put a single photo up all season because we've got tons of huge brown spots because we've been killing off this noxious grass that got into our yard that we
Yes.
finally last year just figured it out. So my husband's been out there, and I mean, we almost got into a huge fight yesterday because he's up at the top of the driveway at the hot curb,
Yeah.
ripping out grass. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's almost June. Like it's a hot curb. It's going to be hard to get that to stay, and I'm like,
Yes.
stop,
Yes.
So again, it's just, I'm learning in this life to like, just try and go like water around rocks, go with the flow and
Yeah.
not fight it. And
Yeah.
just, like I said, be in that present moment thing where, I have a lot of issues in my neighborhood where like someone will put an eyesore out or they change something
Yeah.
or I want to do something. And I'm, I also have to oversee those rules because I'm on the
Yes.
HOA board and stuff like that. So that's a balance too. Cause like I want to preserve the beauty of our neighborhood.
Exactly.
Don't do that, then everybody's just going to spiral, so it's like
Yeah.
you see the difference. And I want to protect my home value, protect what I've built here, protect all those things. So, but
Oh
then
my
it's
gosh.
another balance, of trying to like make sure
Yes.
that I'm only controlling what I can control and not allowing the moves of other people in any way, shape, or form to like impact me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Or try to control them. I mean, that's what spiritual freedom is about. You got to let people be who they are and then work and bridge to them wherever their state of consciousness is. And I think that is that's the beauty of being out in the world and listening, is that you're going to get a nudge about how to connect and how to handle something in a way that you didn't before. And I think that for me is what I've been looking for this year. I just have been looking for how do we talk about the things that are unspoken, the things that are hard for us to do, the things and ways we feel about ourselves or judge ourselves, or call ourselves or label ourselves, and see, no big deal. This is who we are, right? In any experience, because we're in an evolving state of consciousness. We're trying to do and be the best we can. And so whenever I meet somebody and they say something and I think, oh, that was kind of offensive, or, oh, I wonder. And then I think, oh, they're doing the best they can. They're doing the best job that they can for right now. And I don't need to change them. I'm not going to be able to control that. I might want to, and speaking of, Julie, my wife has to put up with that all the time, me trying to control how things happen because I want them to happen in a certain way. Right. But these things we can't control. Now, within the stuff that you can control, I'm curious, where do you see yourself? What's the vision for you for the future? I mean, you got kids and you got your family, but you're doing these amazing things with your business. What's your vision for you? What do you want to see?
Really wild. I mean, I've wanted to for many years to buy some land and build a house. So, I mean, I keep that, but it's like, I'm always kind of balancing that like Catholic guilt. That's like, you shouldn't want money. You shouldn't want this. You shouldn't want that. And so it's interesting because I'm at this like kind of crux right now where I'm trying to just, it's kind of like, I know that I've let the universe know what I want in many different ways, and so now it's just kind of like, I feel like I should just be an observer and sit back and just ride the ride and see where it takes me. I've let the universe know I want to help people. I want to help people that have been through huge traumas to be able to let them know, is life ever going to be the same? Absolutely not. Are you going to miss someone every single day of your time here? Absolutely not. But will you be together again? Absolutely. And can you make the most out of this life if you listen and if you pay attention to the signs?
Yeah.
Will you be able to live a peaceful, happy life? Yes. Because I never used to think that was possible. I
Yeah.
felt like it was over for me. I felt like the
Yeah.
best years of my life were behind me and it was over. And,
Yeah.
it's just, that's like a crazy thing, that in itself
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
and why do anything,
Yeah.
but it's like, if you
Exactly.
can pay attention and have the, just listen to the signs and follow the path. And in doing so, being the best person you can be and asking the universe to show you the signs that you're doing
Yeah.
what's right, because I would love to be able to say, well, here's this list of everything that I would love to accomplish. And I know all these things are going to happen, but
Yeah.
truly, I don't know that any of it's going
No,
to happen.
well, you know for sure that life changes on a dime.
Absolutely.
It
So
can
I
happen
don't
in a
know.
second,
And
right?
what I also found is over the, when I would have trouble or issues, around me, all
Yeah.
I would wish for was that property to be away. So I could just be in my own space and not have to worry about anybody else and close
Yeah.
myself off to the world.
Yeah.
And which is still ultimately what I want, but it may never happen. So
Yeah.
I can't sit around all day
Yeah.
like just wanting for something that may never happen. And that goes with relationships, with a
Yeah.
boyfriend, with a girlfriend, with whoever it is, like constantly wanting someone or something. And
Yeah.
that's what your 90% of your focus is on all day. It's an
Yeah.
obsession because you think that getting that one thing is going to make everything
It's going
okay.
to make fill that empty hole, that sadness, or take it
Yes.
away, or whatever it is. Yeah, I love this. And I think part of, for me, is looking at, and you're talking about it, you're saying looking for the signs. And I think it is in this dialogue that you have with the universe that you feel like you understand. I don't think ever, honestly, I'll be truthful. I have happiness. I'm a happy person. I always have been. But I do know that I came into this world alone and I'll leave it alone. And so I need to know myself at a deeper level so that no matter what happens to me, I'll be able to stay the course, know myself, know that I'm in an experience so that I can learn and grow from it. And then step into the next space, which is to find a way to be kind, find a way to be more loving, find a way to make reparation if I've done something wrong or that hurt somebody in some way. And these are the things that I look for. And I think, like you, I look for the signs. I look for what's the waking dream or what's the golden tongue wisdom that somebody's going to say, like when you got in the car and we're driving and that just stood out in gold letters, ask her about this, right? Because I knew that if we got out of this, which is just sort of this superficial dialogue that we often have with people, and we dropped into this, then we would have a soul to soul connection. And that we would talk about the things that really matter to us. And I think, like meeting you, that was just such a beautiful experience. I'm going to tell that story. I'm going to Toronto to give a talk, and that's one of the stories I'm going to tell, is how we met, because that to me is what life's about, is you meet somebody that you've known before. You don't know where you knew them from, but we've met before because we picked up like it was just
Absolutely.
yesterday,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And that's, one of the things too that I learned in this journey, which is probably the biggest thing that I have learned personally, more than the gardening, more than anything else, is in all of the different research and the books and all the things that I've learned. I feel so at peace with death. I feel so at peace knowing that I have been with the people that have been in my life, in my soul group here on earth, that we have been together for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that we have gone through all these different situations, all doing our best to become closer to God. And being closer to God means that you're living the virtue of a godlike life and doing what you can to accept people for their flaws and wish the best for people, whether they've hurt you or not, and just to live a life of peace. And that is what I pray for. Honestly, I pray for whatever the next steps are in my life. Please grant me peace. Grant me peace. That is all I want.
Yeah, I love you so much. You are so incredible. This has gone so fast, this time with you. I can't wait to do this again. And we're going to have a book discussion. I know we are. We're going to choose a book and then start a discussion about it. But I thank you for your time and your wisdom. I thank you for being willing to share that, being vulnerable and sharing that story that is so, so heart-wrenching. And yet you share really how you triumph and are continuing to triumph through that grief. And I know that you're going to inspire so many people. So please follow your, Mellisa, if you, get on her Instagram, Fancy Flower Farmer, or you can find her podcast, Art of Gardening, and, listen to her stories and listen to her interview people. Go out and get in your garden. And anything else you want to share with us before we go?
I just think in every single one of us, we are all alchemists. All of us can turn metal into gold. And it's all about just looking for the signs and being the best person you can be, sharing kindness and love with every single person that you meet, and acceptance. We are all struggling. This life is not easy on
No
anybody.
doubt.
And
Yes.
so just loving everyone and doing your best to forgive yourself too. We all make mistakes. We all
Yes.
treat people ways we wish that we hadn't. We all do things that we wish we hadn't, but being able to live, learn, and forgive yourself and move forward in a better way, that's life to me.
Oh
So
my gosh. Thank you so much.
thank
You
you.
everybody for tuning in, and we'll look forward to our next conversation with you, I'm sure, in the future. And I just wish you the best, and everyone listening, wish the best for you, and be sure to go out and do anything you can and just up your creative genius. Thanks, everybody.